What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Nightmares Podcast, where we talk about all things horror, movies, music, and in this case, artwork. You have seen her on many of the Nightmares Podcast for many different topics, and also in the Halloween Horror Nights review. But she is finally getting her very own podcast because she finally said yes. After me asking for a long time. So we're very excited to have her. She is an amazing artist and the love of my life, actually. The lovely Sarah Turkowski, soon to be Sarah Conway.
I am so sorry.
Thanks, Zach. Oh yeah, and Zach's here, by the way, too. My partner in crime, Mr. Zachary Smith. So Sarah, without further ado, obviously some people may know you, some people may not. If you can introduce yourself and what you're all about today.
Hello. Yes. My name is Sarah Turkowski, and I am an artist and a graphic designer, and I create some creepy type macabre / freaky / tiki artwork. And I brought some of it to show you today.
Which we're very excited because we talk about your artwork all the time, especially considering one of your pieces is directly behind you.
Yes.
The meat frosty right there, and then along with
right here,
along with a couple other pieces as well. I know that your snow globe is sitting in that little display right over there as well. So
yes.
You get to be asked the very famous question that we ask everybody on here, which was, when did horror start in your life? Because obviously you have a horror edge to all of your artwork, with the exception of Tiki, but the Tiki is kind of freaky, as the name illustrates. So I'm curious, when did horror come into your life?
So I don't know. That's kind of a weird question. Honestly, I don't really know like the perfect answer, but as a young kid, I was actually quite the scaredy cat. Which was funny because I didn't like scary stuff. I was, always the kid when you go to the amusement parks, is the ride gonna be scary? It's gonna be scary. I'm trying to remember. What was the first ride that it's like in Disney World. I'm trying to remember this one story my mom would always tell me. And we went on some ride. I forgot which one it was. But after that ride, and it wasn't like super scary or anything, but after I went on that ride, like the whole rest of the trip, I was asking every time we were going to go do something. Oh, I remember. And I'm sure other people got traumatized by this as a kid as well. It was the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. It wasn't a ride. It was a 3D show with interactive stuff going on. Like, you actually felt the rats brushing against your feet. You felt like things were flying in front of your face. Like, I was terrified. And I had 3D glasses on, and my mom was like, Sarah, just take them off. And I was like, no. Yeah, I didn't know it was going to help or work or whatever. I just was freaked out. And then after that, I just constantly was like, is this going to be scary? It's going to be scary. So I was always scared. I never liked haunted houses as a kid. I never went in them. I think the first time I went in a haunted house, I think I was already in college. And it was terrifying for me. It was like one of those stupid church haunted houses too that are really lame and everything, but anyway, I mean, it's weird how but by the time I was going into haunted houses, I had become a fan of horror, and then as I got a little older, I mean, I liked Goosebumps. I liked Are You Afraid of the Dark was more of my favorite over Goosebumps. Even today, I still think Are You Afraid of the Dark holds up as a good show for adults to watch as well. Like, it's not very hokey. Like, some of it is, but most of it's pretty good. The stories are good. You watch Goosebumps as an adult, at least for me, and I'm just like, I can't watch this. This is too cringy. I just can't.
Isn't that true, Zach? Isn't that true? The isn't Goosebumps a little hokey sometimes?
It's very hokey, very cringy. Yeah.
I just think it's fun.
It is pretty ridiculous. Sure. We'll go with that.
But I love still watching Are You Afraid of the Dark? I'll watch whenever it's streaming on something. I'll make sure to watch it. I used to own the DVDs, but that's a long story, from Canada, so they don't work anymore. But like, yeah, I mean, I think that's like when I first started to really like scary stuff and not be like so terrified anymore. I remember my mom watching like the show Dark Shadows. She loved that show, and like she was watching reruns when I was little one day, and I was terrified of the show, and like anytime she was watching it, I had to hide in the playroom. Like, I didn't want to even be like in the living room while it was playing. So I mean, I don't know, like I just, I remember one time I came in the living room, she's sitting there like intensely watching the TV, and I'm like, what you watching? She's like, Dark Shadows. I'm like, oh, and I like ran into the playroom and I hid in there because like I just didn't want to be in the realm of like the show. Like, I was like, oh my God, something's gonna come out or scare me. So yeah, I mean, I was a bit of a scaredy cat, but also I grew to start loving some stuff. I think once I like reached, I think it was like 7th or 8th grade, 6th grade, maybe even, I started to really like horror movies. I really, like The Ring was one of my first like really good favorite ones that I remember watching. That I just loved.
And I love it how that's like crazy ironic that you were afraid of as a child of things coming out of the television to come and get you.
Watching The Ring, yeah. So it's funny. So yeah, but I remember The Ring being one of my first like hardcore, like, oh my God, I love this movie. It's so good. It's so creepy. And then, yeah, I think from there I just started really liking a lot of horror movies. I unfortunately never like was introduced to any of the old fashioned horror movies as a kid. I don't really know any of the classics. Like, I know of them, but I've never really even seen. I mean, I only watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre like maybe a month ago for the first time. Honestly, I didn't really care for it. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I guess there's a specific type of horror that I like that I think everybody likes. I like the more ghost stuff, the supernatural, paranormal, like creepy entity type stuff. And I really don't know how this came about, but I really started to get into liking like types of things having to do with like voodoo and like witchcraft, and that's kind of how it started playing into my artwork. I've always loved tropical things, like, I don't know, I've always loved Tikis and that kind of Polynesian inspired artwork, and maybe it tied into somehow voodoo, even though voodoo comes from Louisiana, New Orleans, and Haiti. It's not like, has nothing to do with the Polynesian Islands as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong. Because I think magic and witchcraft and all that stuff has roots in almost every culture. But I love that stuff. I love like witchcraft. I love, that kind of type of stuff, black magic. Even though voodoo isn't, as you will be told numerous times in New Orleans, voodoo is not witchcraft, it's a religion, which is true. But, Hollywood has kind of taken it for a different turn. It made it into something like more sinister in the movies. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what inspired my artwork, which is a lot of what you will see when I start to show you some stuff.
Absolutely. So was there like a specific, film or a specific story that really caught your attention when it came to like witchcraft or voodoo or hoodoo or things of that kind of realm? Because it's a kind of a subgenre of the spiritual horror movie, or entity horror movie, like, you're dealing in, black magic and witchcraft and things like that. So it's very specific. So I'm curious if you caught any, piece of media or whatever the case may be on, why you liked it so much, why did it hit you?
I think the one movie I really liked, and I saw it in high school, was The Skeleton Key.
Oh yeah, okay.
That has to do with hoodoo, so it's a little different. But I think I liked that whole idea because it takes place in the South. I love the South just in general. I love New Orleans. I love the Spanish moss. I love the bayou. I love the swamps and like all that kind of stuff. And the Skeleton Key is very much got that atmosphere and that theme happening. And then, of course, it definitely has the dark magic going on in it, which I really like. So I think that's one of my favorite movies. I really liked it when I saw it in the theater. I think that's one that definitely did it for me. Going further down the line through the years, another notable thing I watched was Coven, which season 3 of American Horror Story, and that has to do with witches. It takes place in New Orleans, has voodoo in it. It's very cool. I actually went out of my way on a house tour of the Garden District in New Orleans to find the house where they filmed Coven, and honestly they didn't film it in the house. It was just the outside and the yard and everything that they used, and they built a set for the interior. But like me and my sister, like at the end of the tour, like we told the guy, we're like, I think it was even at the beginning of the tour, we're like, are we going to see that house? It's in the Garden District. He's like, well, it's not part of the tour. He's like, but I will direct you towards it afterwards. And he told us where to go. And we took a few, left and right turns, and we found it. And I'm a big fan of that.
I'm just a small fan of American Horror Story. Just a very
I love American Horror
fan.
Story. And honestly, that was the first season I watched. I just decided one day, I think, I had nothing to do. It was, I was alone in the house. I was like, well, I heard about this American Horror Story. I've been told I would really like it. Let me see what the current season is. And it was season 3. And I found it, I think it was like on demand. I found it and I started watching it. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I love the story. I love like everything about it. And and then from there I watched season 1, season 2, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You know what I mean? It just went from there. So, and I'm still a fan of the show. I love Ryan Murphy in general. I think he's really great. I love most of what he does.
I love how she added in most
because I don't really care for Scream Queens. I don't know. I just didn't.
Zach's just sadness.
I just didn't get hooked on it. I tried. I gave it a shot a couple times, and I just never got hooked. I honestly forgot about it a couple times. Like I was like, oh yeah, I was watching that, but I don't really want to finish
it. That's like a laugh into a sigh because Zach and I love that show.
I know
so much.
I know you do.
It's
very boisterous, like your personality. So
sure, but it's also fucking hilarious.
It's only because Chad is our spirit animal.
Yeah, that's true. And I also want to walk down the street in perfectly coordinated white outfits with baseball bats with Backstreet Boys singing in the background. Dude, that you admitted that scene was fantastic.
It was funny. I don't want to recreate it.
Well, it's each their own, I suppose. You know what? I may or may not know this, but but for the sake of the audience, when you were growing up, besides Dark Shadows, were your parents into horror or watching it or growing up and everything else? I don't know if they had an inkling for horror movies or thrillers or things like that.
Not so much like the old the old classics like Frankenstein and all that stuff, but. My mom, not so much as far as what she's told me. I know that she did like Dark Shadows. She honestly never really cared for a horror or creepy stuff. Like she'd always be like, "Oh, I don't like how that makes me feel. I don't like it. It makes my skin crawl. I don't like watching that. I don't like watching that." So she never, I mean, even like to this day, you know, I would be at her house and I turn like some creepy show on and she's like, are you watching something creepy in there? I can hear it. I'm like, yes, Mom. Like, don't come in here, you know? So it's kind of weird that she liked Dark Shadows, but that was really the only thing that I know of. My dad actually likes horror, likes creepy stuff. He never was like one to really I don't know, like it's hard to explain what his thing with it is. From what I remember is he would be the one turning on the creepy movies. Well, me and Ashley were probably way too young to watch them. Before I was born, this is always a funny story with him. My sister was probably like 1 or 2 or something, old enough to talk, but very small. And I wasn't alive yet, so she had to be no older than, 2 or 3. And so my dad, she was getting ready for bed, so my dad's like, okay, adult time. He puts on like the show, I think the It. He put on It. It was just series at the time. And he's like, wow, I heard about this. I think it's like really cool. I want to see it. Let me turn this on. It's like the very beginning of the show. Like he's in the sewer. He's talking to the kid, and little Ashley comes waddling in with her nightgown on and ready to go to bed. And she goes, why does that clown have scary teeth? and my mom goes, turn that off. And my dad turned it right off. He never saw it, never got to finish it, barely started it, never saw it.
It's probably a good thing that he turned it off when he did.
Yeah, so why does that clown have scary teeth?
Because he eats children, that's why.
Exactly. Turn that off right now. So my dad definitely likes that kind of stuff. He loves creepy horror. He loves, scary movies. And then I think the other thing was not only was he turned on, I think the movie, this isn't a horror movie, but it was a Saving Private Ryan. Is that the one where like it's the intense like World War II battle scenes?
Yes. D-Day, yeah.
He had that on one day. Like me and Ashley we're kids, we're playing with our toys, and he's got this intense like battle scene on the TV, and he's like specifically says, watch this. We're kids. We're like, huh? And it's that part where, like, the one guy, he's like that old-fashioned helmet on, and, like, a bullet hits him, and it dings off his helmet. And he's so amazed at what it did, so he takes his helmet off to look at what happened, and he got blown in the head, and died.
Yep.
And my dad's, like, specifically, like, whoa, this is a good scene, guys, watch. And we're, like, got our Barbie dolls, and we're like, huh? What are you showing us, Dad? And this guy getting his brains blown out. So that was pretty funny. And then, funny enough, I think we were like maybe like middle school age, but definitely too young to watch Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. He showed us that. He's like, okay, we're gonna watch this movie, and we watched it from beginning to end. Which is very gory, obviously it's Frankenstein. So yeah, my dad loves it, and he definitely introduced us to some stuff early on that I think, helped me become a bit of a like horror and everything like that. So once I, got a little older, but yeah.
Among Sarah and me, Sarah's probably always the first person to run to a horror movie, even before I would. She's introduced me to a few things as well that have been great. So which is really cool, and she's fit in like a glove with the rest of the crazy people that are here, including Zach. So he kind of had a little bit of maybe a touch of Zach's upbringing with horror. Being introduced to horror movies at a very young age, except not as explicitly, more of off to the side. Zach was definitely no, you're gonna watch this movie. We're gonna watch Freddy and Jason, and and I don't care that you're 2. So which is always a fun story to hear from Zach. But so now that's awesome. So with artwork. When did you, I know that you've talked in the past about, things that you've had growing up and, passions that you've had. Sarah loves animals more than most people. But when did art start to move into your life? When did that start to,
very, very early. I love to draw all the time. When I was a kid, I had a hard time with learning. I had ADD really bad, like severely bad, and at the time when we were kids, parents didn't know what it was. It kind of was a newer thing. So I struggled in school really harshly, and I think because I liked drawing, it was the only thing I really understood how to do it and was actually good at it. So it made me feel really good to be able to just take out a piece of paper and draw. I had a chalkboard in my room, we're talking like the little Tikes chalkboard easel thing.
Of course.
And I was always drawing on that. It had a pad of paper in the back, crayons, and a chalkboard in the front. And actually, I remember drawing some spooky monsters on there that I was afraid of. I remember one time I think I saw the Are You Afraid of the Dark episode with Nosferatu, the movie theater one.
Yep.
That guy scared the hell out of me. So I drew him. I drew him on my little piece of paper, on my little pad. I remember I cut him out. I was like, this is the guy that scares me, and then, I had a chalkboard. I was always drawing on my chalkboard. Whenever I got mad, I'd run into my room and I'd start drawing pictures of my mom being mean to me and yelling at me. And,
most people keep a diary. Sarah had a picture book.
I think even my mom encouraged me when I was struggling. So I had a really nasty, mean first grade teacher. She wasn't just mean to me. She was mean to every kid. She just was a nightmare of a teacher. And she one day she made me really mad, and I came home from school and I was so upset. I was crying. My mom's like, why don't you go draw a picture of her? So I ran into the room. I grabbed a piece of paper. I started drawing her. I started crossing her face out and making her look like horrible and everything. And then my mom looks at it. She's like, oh, she looks cute. I'm like, don't say that. She's supposed to look mean. She looks mean. You know what I mean? So yeah, I was always the kid that got excited when there was an assignment that involved drawing, because I was like, yes, haha, I always got so happy when it was art time, the teacher was like, we're going to do an art project. I got so excited. I always loved it. The teachers always had blank paper on the side for free drawing. So I was always going there, always drawing during indoor recess. Free time, whatever. Yeah, so I just loved it. I would do it at home. Soon enough, lots of family members caught on, and they bought me all kinds of art sets and crayons and markers. I had all kinds of stuff, and I remember one time, my grandma told me, my dad's mom, she was always telling me, you should go into art, as I was getting older and thinking about, I was in high school, she was like, you should really go into art. And I'm just like, I don't know, there's really no career in it, is what we were always told. So as a kid, it started really early, and it kind of was my way of, getting through the hardships of what I was dealing with as a child, with teachers not understanding me, with parents not understanding me. And then finally I got the help I needed. They're like, okay, you obviously have something going on. Let's get you, some help. And, I was on the right track from there. Once my parents understood, okay, she has a learning disability, they told my teachers what's going on, and everyone was on the same page. I started to get good teachers as time went on. I had some really great teachers my last few years in grammar school. I think that really helped me, kind of just, become the person I am today. And I continue to draw and still mess around with stuff.
You know, it's kind of interesting, and maybe Zach, can add some perspective here. I find it really interesting that a lot of artists, people that are that are in those fields, filmmaking, musicians, artists, things of that nature. School and them don't often really mix. I don't know many that really excelled, in academia, on a regular, like being really, really good students, but also being artists at the same time. And then also, a lot of them have HT, the present company included. So I'm curious, I did not do very well. I was a very below average, if not average student. I mean, there's some things that I loved, but it also depended on who was teaching. I loved history and English, but science and math were not strong suits. It took me in college. It took me 5 times from college to, from high school to college to pass algebra 2 until finally it clicked in my head. So it was kind of a experience. So I'm curious, Zach. Did you have a similar thing? Being in film and being a pseudo artist filmmaker. What was your experience like with school?
I fucking hated school. I did not excel at all. I was not an excelling student. I hated everything from math, reading, writing, all that shit. I fucking despised it. I eventually got the hang of science because science can actually be fun when you learn, oh, I could blow shit up? Fuck yeah, let me do that. And just, build and create shit. So eventually I got the hang of science. Everything else, no. Fuck that. College, I learned script writing was fun, so that's when reading and writing started, excelling a little bit more in that, but I could always fucking do it. It's just like, all right, you're gonna teach the same thing for 20 fucking years. Yeah, eventually people are gonna get bored, all right? I know how to read, okay? I don't need to read 20 fucking just, I don't know. My theory on it anyways.
My gosh.
Well, it's funny, like just how you mentioned that, Zach, too, is like I imagine that people would be more successful if they taught it in a way that made sense to them, because you just even mentioned it, like, English and writing made sense to you once it was in script form.
Oh yeah, like all my college courses, like anything I had to like write or something, I literally asked, do you mind if I write a script? Sure, cool. It was my field, it made sense, they let me do it. Wow, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you make things fucking interesting. Same thing with science. I could blow shit up. Can I do that? Sure, do that. Sweet. I'm learning now. Math. Oh, all of this bullshit is useless. Calculus, trigonometry, the theory of relativity. I'm a filmmaker, God damn it. I don't need to know this shit.
Yeah.
I literally, for years, it was just like, give me one application in real life where this is going to be useful.
Right.
You can't? Fuck
It's
you.
like an algebra test on your Starbucks application.
Yeah. They, I know what A plus B equals C. Do you know how to pour coffee? And it's funny how that, that works and everything else. And like, if you taught, physics and light and energy, and everything else, you can make an example of it with how to light a set. If light is going this way, the shadow will go that way.
It's the same with artwork too. Light, color, all that stuff.
Do you think that if they talked about light and color in a science class and shading and things like that, that you would pay more attention?
Probably.
I think so too. It's just funny. Like, it's athletes and artists, just for whatever reason, just do not excel in that because it just isn't being made sense to them. It isn't being made sense into how their mind works. So I always found that rather fascinating. So obviously, you had a lot of upbringing with art and things like that, and I caught a little bit of it at the beginning. Obviously, when you get pissed off at your teachers, when you would try to draw them ugly and everything else. But when did this kind of love for horror films and then the love for art kind of intersect with each other? When did that start to develop? Because it's very clear of your style. Like you have a horror edge to you, and you dive everywhere from the creepy and the macabre to I don't want to say horror. Horror cute is not the right word, but it's this horror light. Like you have the snowman right behind you. It's still creepy and it's still got an edge to it, but like it's still kind of on the lighter side.
Well,
so
yeah.
when did this all kind of mix?
Some of like, for I think what you're trying to say about stuff like that is like I don't want. And, you know, it's like I kind of don't, my artwork's kind of not like where you look at it and you're like, oh, God, that's grotesque. Or like, oh, my God, wow, that's really dark. You look at it and you go, this is, you know, kind of dark, but it makes you chuckle a little bit or laugh a little bit. Like, you know, like you got Frosty the Abominable Snowman. It's like, hey, come on, I meet Frosty, but it's not Frosty. It's like dark Frosty. So, you know, it says, hey, he's back again. And, you know, like he's got his corncob pipe, his button nose, but he's also got, you know, his eyes made out of souls. So, you know, he's got teeth, he's got claws, he's got horns. So yeah, it's cute and it makes you laugh, but it's also not like the most happiest thing either. But I guess when my horror stuff started coming into play, probably was college. You know, high school, I think a lot of the projects were very open to let you do what you wanted to do. But honestly, I went to an all-girl Catholic school, and I think felt a little bit of a restraint there, not to do stuff that was overly horror, dark. You know, some kids did a little bit, but there have definitely been times where our teacher warned us, or especially when it was around like this spring art show was coming up, and she was like, you know, just keep in mind that like the stuff going in the show, she's like, you can do what you want. I'm not going to restrict you on what you draw and what you create. She's like, that's fine. She's like, but not from me. She's like, from other people, like the dean or the, you know, the principal or other teachers may have an issue if they see some of your stuff up. It may get censored. It may get taken down. It may not be allowed to be up on the show. But she's like, I'm not stopping you from doing what you want to do. I'm just letting you know, like, if you do something a little dark, a little too dark, she's like, you know, it may not be allowed to be up in the art show. So she did warn us. So I think that's why I kind of stuck to a little bit like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do something, you know, a little too dark and this and that. Again, had nothing to do with my art teacher, but yeah, it had to do with the school and the environment. We were in high school, and you know, all the kids at that age are being closely watched and monitored, and God forbid you do something a little dark, they're like, oh my God, are they suicidal? Oh my God, are they having trouble? Are they having friend trouble? Are they slaying their wrists? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, and then, yeah, they're just very, very weird like that. And as you could see, no matter works, you're not going to be worried that anything bad is going on. You know, I mean, it's just, it was that way. It was that way in high school. And yeah, so I think college, oh my God, like, you know, just everything let loose, all the, you know, all ties were off and everyone was allowed to do whatever the hell they wanted to do. And yeah, I think that's when I started to, you know, be a little more dark with my artwork. Not everything was. Some stuff was light and cute. I remember we made like, we were re-illustrating our favorite children's book. And I did one about a polar bear who left the Arctic and went into the jungle, and he made all these friends. And one was like a hippo, one was like a snake. And boy, I just made people like just all like, oh my God, look at how cute. Even I had an illustration teacher at the time. He was like this big, he seemed like he was, who wasn't. He was big, tough Russian guy, you know. And he was critiquing my piece, and he was like, I just want to say, this hippo is just so charming. He's just so charming. You know, the way I drew the hippo. And then the one with the snake, he looked at the snake and the polar bear. I made it so cute. So like the little tongue was going nose to nose with the polar bear. He's like, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. You know, so a lot of my stuff still remained cute and everything. I still love that stuff. But like, yeah, there was definitely stuff where I did do things with voodoo. I did things a little darker. And I think one piece that I could really reflect on that definitely fits my personality now, and it's kind of almost similar, and I want to redo this piece, but it's almost similar to the Frosty piece. It was a scene of the Christmas elves, and the story it was telling was, what is it like for Santa's elves after they send Santa on his way with all the presents? What do they do? You know, like, they've been working hard all year. They've been doing the work of this fat ass to go, like, take all their credit. You know, like, they're probably just, like, fucking frustrated. Like, oh, thank God that's over. Like, let's go let loose. So I put them in a bar scene and just kind of had that, like, one guy was passed out on the bar where you don't even see him, you see his legs. Like, one elf was smoking a joint. One just had, like, a green face that just looked like he was totally smashed. There was one in the background. I think he had, like a stocking over his head. He was, like, dancing and being goofy. You know, like, they were just kind of, like, cutting loose while Santa was going to deliver all their hard work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's absolutely awesome. And then I know that, you know, some people may know this, but some people may not. You went to school with another one of our dear friends. You didn't really get to know him when you were at school, but Mr. Dennis Preston went to the same school that you did.
Yes, he did. I think he was a couple years behind me. But yeah, we went to the same art school.
The what was the name?
The American Academy of Art.
Which is awesome. But
Yep.
before we get to the some of your pieces, because I want you to be able to show a bunch of your cool stuff. The one thing I didn't want to skip was on episode 4 of Living Nightmares. You did the design work for all of the masks. You actually created those and designed those. So I wanted to get the the floor open for you and Zach about how you work. Zach obviously being the director and Sarah obviously being the designer. You know, how did that process work for both of you, and how did you start to develop some of the look of it, essentially I wanted to get it because we're all about the filmmaking process, and this is very much a part of the filmmaking process.
All right, so yeah, it was great. It was basically I started out. Zach told me what the story of what was going to be going on in the film, what the synopsis was. He told me, okay, this is what you're going to be designing. It was supposed to be a cult that existed in the woods. I read the story myself, and there was no description of at all what the masks looked like. They just said masks. I asked Zach, like, hey, what are you going for? I think you told me something like V for Vendetta-ish-esque type thing. I don't exactly remember.
I don't think so. Like,
okay.
Like, that style, like, it's good, but when you see the V for Vendetta thing, you know what that implies.
Yeah,
so
I think you wanted something little, I don't know, you weren't really sure, so I thought to myself, because that's always the step number one. You ask your client, what are you thinking? Tell me what you're thinking, because, if I just go off and do this and you're thinking something different, then I'm going to waste my time. So I said, what are you thinking? You gave me a little loose guidance, but just fine, totally fine. And I was like, all right, good. So now I got free reign to do what I want. So I thought about it. I'm like, what would a cult in the woods look like? Maybe they would make their masks out of the materials you find in the woods, bones, sticks, wood, stuff like that. So I came up with the idea of doing animal skull masks. And I did a few drawings. Me and Zach discussed it. I think you really pretty much were like, good from the start, and then I went along and started sketching more, and I came up with like 5 different designs, I believe, and then Dennis took it and went from there. So
nice. And then what about you, Zach? What were some of the the thoughts from your end on working with Sarah on the on the process and everything else, or what was going on with your thought?
easy to work with. Everything went well. I love the designs, and yeah, everything was great.
The so no, I know so no, yeah, okay, fair enough. The I know it was a nice simple dialogue, but I knew that I wanted to make sure that was discussed, because I know it hasn't been discussed in detail a little bit. But I like the woodland idea. It was really cool. Go ahead, Zach.
It was also 2 years ago.
So Zach has memory issues. I told him about something we did a month ago, and he's like, I don't remember that. So here's your opportunity to pull out some of the pieces.
Yeah.
We want to see them and see all the great stuff and talk about them a little bit.
So I guess I'll start with some the voodoo stuff I was talking about. I made these shrunken heads. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, the shrunken head guys. I'm not going to reveal how I made these, but yeah, promise you they're not real, but obviously. But yeah, I did I make these cool shrunken heads. I have another one here. So they're kind of like in a curio jar. They're fun. They're fun. They're not... Again, not anything creepy, grotesque, bloody, gross. They're brightly colored. They got fun colored hair. They got fun colored beads. They're happy. They're happy guys. So this guy is really cool. I made him. He's like a little... Honestly, it was a pineapple that I just painted to look like a shrunken head. So this guy's really fun. Again, bright colors, nothing crazy. Yeah, he's got, some damage happening here, but, he's a happy dude.
So everything is supposed to be happy, fun. That's kind of the style that you're,
Just fun,
that
fun,
you're going for.
Light-hearted, but yet, a little bit oh, that's a little...
It's a little different.
Weird.
It's a little different.
Yeah, different.
It's a little different.
So then going on continue with the voodoo, I have these wooden painting on a wood panel of the voodoo queen. So I like to draw voodoo priestess and kings as well. So you got, they aren't really kings, but this she's the queen. So I put queen on there. Then we got Mr. Papa here. He's Papa Legba.
Nice.
Which was very popular. He's the head honcho and so he's the, the counterpart to the Voodoo Queen. So he's very cool. I got him smoking a cigar like he normally does. I got his hat like he normally is seen wearing. So he's a real cool guy, a cool figure in the voodoo culture. A lot of people would recognize him. And then I have...
and here we go. My favorite one.
This is a voodoo house model that I created. So it's just, literally just a small plastic dollhouse that I repurposed to look like a swamp house.
Nice.
With some voodoo action happening there. You got this guy. I had to put the little alligator and the snake. So, and inside, you come in and you see...
Flip it around.
You see, the house. So you got, the little spell table happening. You got more snakes, you got more grass, you got upstairs, you got a little circle going on there, a little pentagram.
Nice.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with this. It turned out better than I expected. And it's my first one doing this, and I think I'm definitely going to make more things like this. So yeah, it can definitely just sit. It's on a little shelf. It can, honestly, if someone who purchased this would like to hang it, they can hang it, or it could just sit on a table, sit on a desk, whatever you want to do. So it's definitely my favorite piece so far. Some tiki stuff I got. These are just really simple, made out of resin. They're just kind of decorative pieces that you can buy and just kind of have it hanging out on a shelf. They're these, again, bright colors. They're very cool. Not really horror, but again, I love anything that's like tiki themed. And another shrunken head I did was this painting. This is like a succulent shrunken head. So he's got succulents growing out of his head.
Nice.
But he's a cool dude as well.
You love shrunken heads.
I love shrunken heads. And then too, I mean, I made like, this is supposed to be like a curio box of a dead mermaid.
I love that. That's actually really cool.
So it's just like a little plastic mermaid toy that I bought, and I just turned it into like a curios, like cabinet of curiosity thing. Again, it can be hung on the wall, so very purposeful. I have 2 of those. This one's the other one.
Nice.
So yeah, definitely had fun with those. And then I also have like some holiday themed stuff because I will be in a holiday Krampus show. It's called Krampus Curiosities, Creepy Curiosities.
Yep.
So again, a lot of this stuff would be being sold there. If not, I mean, all of it's going to be being sold there. But I want to do some Christmas type stuff. So I did like potion bottle ornaments. So we got like witch's brew, infected zombie brains, snail slime. And then I did these cute like vintage looking ornaments. Like Halloween ornaments, like this cute little cat.
Zach will love that.
So I also made these fingers.
Nice.
To hang on your tree. And then I made these like macabre looking poinsettias. So it's like a little, what do you call, cameo on there.
Nice.
Yeah, then I got another cameo type, like, little skeleton zombie lady hanging from an ornament.
So you seem very comfortable with mixing holidays and giving your own kind of edge to each different holiday.
Yes, you know, I'm an anomaly. I like the bright and cheerful, but I like the scary, too. One more thing is this is like a tiki drink.
Nice. They gotta love.
It's like a little squid glass. So yeah, that's, pretty much what I got going on here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then when you sit down to do your process and everything else, is it kind of things you think about, or maybe something you saw on the street, or maybe something you see and you're like you want to repurpose? How's the process work for you?
With the drawings, it's definitely just like what I want to draw. I'm just like, okay, what can I draw? I'll draw like, Voodoo Queen, or I'll draw this or that. Obviously my process is references. I start looking on Pinterest and Google for imagery that could help me, put together an image. I'm not copying anything. I'm not taking a drawing that somebody already did and doing it on my own. I'm not copying a photograph. I'm literally taking multiples. We're talking a lot of different photographs and like, oh, I like this, the way the hat is here. Or I like the way this pose is. Or I like, the colors used in this. And I'll just like literally like old fashioned, like slap it together in a Word document, all these pictures. I print it out and I have it next to me while I'm drawing, and I kind of, when I'm getting to a certain part of the drawing, I look at my photos and I think, how can I, what can I do for this part and what can I do for that part? Same thing with like the house I did. I pulled a bunch of different reference photos of swamp houses, the swamps, voodoo, witchcraft, all kinds of different things. How do I want the exterior to look? Do I like the way the the way the roof is on this house? Do I like the way the windows are in this house? Like, I just take different pieces and I use it as inspiration to create my own thing. Um, yeah, and then, I mean, honestly, too, like, I know what I like. I know I like to make. So I'll be honest with you. I go to like the Dollar Tree.
She's the only person I have to financially worry about at the Dollar Tree.
And I will literally just browse the aisles of the Dollar Tree. Some of my favorite aisles are the obviously Crafter's Corner, because Dollar Trees, they're getting good with the crafting. They know what they're doing. They are really knowing what they're doing with the crafting community. They're selling vinyl now, which means Cricut crazy cry cut people are buying the vinyl to use in their Cricut machines. I'm talking about these really expensive crazy machines that cuts vinyl. You can make all kinds of crap out of it. I mean, they're selling everything, and I love that section. Then I will hit up the toy section, because I find things like this house I just repurposed and made into a creepy house. So a lot of different toys you can use and like just repaint, tear apart, use pieces of it. I like to do that. And then of course, I hit up like Michael's and we'll buy like floral stuff and like stuff that's on clearance and really cheap stuff. Nothing too crazy or expensive materials, but it's fun to like really put stuff together and see what you can make out of it. It's like so exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
And I, so I think we're gonna get going to wrap it up. But I do have a question of the podcast, and I already know Sarah's answer, but I actually kept it for this very specific moment. And Zach kind of brought it up a little bit too. What was I'm going to say specifically a teacher that inspired you to, to keep this going and to really follow your passions and make you, it maybe formed you into what you are today, and recognize that that all this other regular learning stuff is not necessarily for you, but you do have a passion and a talent for art and things of that nature, and really propelled you forward. In tradition, the guest does go first, but they do have an option to pass. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about maybe a teacher that inspired you on moving forward, maybe turned you into a superhero.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because like a few teachers came into my head when you were asking me that question. Despite all the shitty teachers I had, I did have some really great ones that just really helped me out and made me who I am. So I do have a third grade teacher. Her name she had a funny name, and God bless her for, going into third grade teaching with this name. Her name was Miss Fardy, spelled Fard, as in dog, Y. But she was awesome. She was really great. She was the first teacher I had after 2 years of bad teaching. I had this wonderful third grade teacher. She just looked past my issues. She loved me for the person I was. She knew I was a good kid. She knew I wasn't trying to cause any trouble or be a bad student. She often favored me. She let me watch the newts in the little bowl while she cleaned out the newt cage. She called me Super Sarah. She really, and one really quick story is the art project I did in the class. It was a haunted house, and I decided in my haunted house I was going to draw a bunch of creepy stuff, and no other kid thought of that, in the windows to draw stuff. And she was just so impressed by my creativity. She's like, I'm going to hang this up front and center. Like, you did such a great job with this. So she really made me feel good, made me feel like, that I can do this and I can, excel and thrive.
Nice. And you wrote a comic about her later on in your college career?
I did. I wrote, in my college career, I wrote about my experience becoming an artist, and it was like a little graphic novel, and I definitely featured her in that. Yep.
Nice. I love
And
it.
the comic was called Super Sarah.
Because that's what she used to call you. Zach. It's probably more in college than it is anywhere else.
But like all my like truly great and amazing teachers were in college. I wouldn't say that I have one that I like prefer over the other. The first good teacher that I can remember from my life was my 5th grade teacher. Granted, names are foggy as fuck. I can't remember any of my like the only teacher I remember that was the name of, at least, is the one that I hated. And that was my 6th grade teacher. I hope that woman's rotting in hell. But besides that, I mean, other than like, she was the only teacher that I can remember that I legitimately fucking hated. High school, I had, for the most part, great teachers, and I had one stupid teacher, my fucking chemistry teacher. She would lose papers, students would prove her wrong. She was a fucking moron, but I mean, yeah, for the most part, from high school up, I got lucky with my teachers. Well, there was one teacher in college who couldn't teach to save his fucking life. The audio guy tried teaching a VFX class, did not know what the fuck he was doing, completely unqualified, fucking moron. Just, Jesus Christ. All right, but I don't know.
Back to positivity.
Back to the great ones.
Yeah, no, I just fucking, like, I had good teachers. Some great teachers. Names are foggy, but for the most part, like, teachers are not anything that I can, like, think of, talk about, care about. It's like, they got me where I need to go. Cool, we're done here. Move on. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sean was probably my favorite teacher at school just because he taught me, editing tricks, VFX tricks, stuff like that. And that's really just kind of the end of it. Yeah, Wright was an interesting teacher.
I heard about
Bruce. Bruce was our script writing teacher. Taught a lot of great stuff, film history, good script writing techniques. Very good man. And then Katie was also a great film teacher as well. And yeah, I mean, I guess my best teachers were my film teachers. So yeah, shout out to all of them for the most part.
And I think for me is is Mr. Kane is probably the one that just taught me about art, and about literature, and about and I think a lot of a lot of the lessons that he stemmed from him led into everything else, led into film, into appreciating plays and literature, and he taught me an important lesson that I still remember to this day. And he says, Mark, always read a book twice. Because the book doesn't change and you do. You will always have a different perspective coming back to it. And I relate that to so many different things. I relate that to people. I relate that to film. I relate that to artwork. I relate that to music and to literature, plays. You will always come back to things differently if enough time has passed, because you have changed. And the movie is not. And there's been plenty of movies that I've seen and I hated when I first started, and then I've grown to appreciate them, or I found something new, but I had to transform into the person that I am today in order to actually appreciate that nuance. And I think that that's a piece of advice that I've carried throughout my entire life in almost every aspect of my life. So it was a good advice that I treasure to this day. And I think the second runner up would be Mr. Glenn, who was my high school theater teacher, who was absolutely fucking insane. The man did not drink water; he drank Mountain Dew. And yeah, he said like very snobly too. Like, water is for bathing, not for drinking. And I'm like, you're fucking insane. But for some, I don't know, and he never did this explicitly, but he was always a supporter of passion. If you were passionate about something, like you would never meet a more encouraging person to follow that passion. Like, and he was the one guy that, like, either go big or go home. He never said those phrases because he never would, but he lived that philosophy of, if you're going to do something, do it as big and as passionately as you possibly can in every aspect. Take life by the balls and go. And it's something I learned from him, even if he probably didn't intend to teach me that. It's something that I learned from him. is that if nothing in life is worth doing without passion. And if you don't have that, then it's not going to be. And then talks, something we talked about in the last podcast. If you don't have passion towards something, then it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter all that much, and you won't give a shit. So therefore, nobody else will give a shit. So be passionate about things. Sarah, this is your opportunity to look directly into that camera and tell all the good people where they can find you on all the social medias, and maybe that art show that's coming up, and let them know where they can find all your great artwork and where they can buy it.
Yes. So I have a website called freakytikiart.com. You can't really buy anything on there. It's more just like a gallery page. But you can buy stuff online on Etsy. Again, Freaky Tiki Art. I have a Facebook page. You can view what all my latest and greatest products on there. Also Freaky Tiki Art. And I'm going to be having a table selling my stuff that you've seen here and also more stuff as well at the Krampus Creepy Curiosity Show. It's going to be in Lombard at the Brower House, and it is on December 3rd. So it's a Saturday. It's coming up. But, I will be there selling most of this stuff, if not more.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And thank you all of you for checking out the Nightmares podcast. You can find us on anywhere where podcasts can be found, Spotify, YouTube, and Anchor. And then also you can find us on all of our great social medias. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and
Slasher,
the application for all things horror. And if you are watching this on YouTube, if you could be so awesome, stab that like button, smash that subscribe, and click that little dingy bell to be notified every time we drop amazing content. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on the Nightmares podcast. Bye, guys. Everybody wave to the wide. Yay.